My parents missed my MIT graduation for my sister's ballet recital. I blocked them. At my cousin's wedding, they finally saw my success and regret. I stood on the lawn of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, wearing my cap and gown, scanning the throng for faces I knew would not be there. May 2020. The sun pounded down on my shoulders, as hundreds of families celebrated all around me. Their cameras flashed, and their voices rang over campus in waves of pride and delight. My phone felt heavy in my pocket. My mother's last message remains vivid in my recollection. "Sweetie, we're so sorry, but Olivia's recital got moved to today. We'll make it up to you. Congratulations." 24 years old. Summa cum laude in computer engineering, and I was completely alone. The ceremony closed with the following. I received my graduation with a grin on my face as the dean shook my hand. Professor Anderson, my thesis supervisor, approached me aside later, his anxiety engraved in the creases around his eyes. "Your family couldn't make it?" he inquired. I shrugged, attempting to look nonchalant. "They had a conflict." He looked at me for a long time. "You're one of the brightest students I've ever taught, Emily. I hope you know that." I thanked him and returned to my apartment through the Cambridge streets, still dressed in my regalia. Tourists took photographs. A homeless man praised me, but my phone remained quiet. That evening, I finally received the call. My mother's voice was filled with excitement. Olivia was absolutely breathtaking. "You should have seen her in that white tutu. Everyone said she was the star of the show." "How was your little ceremony?" "What about mine?" 4 years of restless nights and many hours in the lab yielded a breakthrough in semiconductor design with patent potential. But that was my small ceremony, whereas Olivia's community theater ballet presentation was the highlight of the year. "It was fine," I said frankly. "Oh, good. Your father recorded the entire recital. Would you like me to send you the video?" Something inside me shattered. "No, Mom, I don't." "Don't be like that, Emily. You know how important dance is to Olivia. You've always been so independent, so self-sufficient. You understand, right?" I really understood. I'd understood since I was 7 years old and had to skip my own birthday party due to Olivia's emergency costume fitting. I understood when they skipped my high school honor ceremony because Olivia needed them for a dancing competition in Ohio. I understood why they declined to help with my college application money because Olivia's private lessons were pricey. However, when Olivia reached 18, they managed to save enough money to buy a new automobile, while I used the bus. "I have to go," I said. "Wait, we'll visit soon. Maybe next month." "Sure, Mom. Maybe next month." I hang up. Then I blocked both of their numbers. The next morning, I blocked them across all social media platforms. I changed my email address. When they tried to contact me through my old college roommate, Rachel, I urged her to inform them that I needed space. What I didn't tell them was that the gap would be permanent. My Uncle James, my father's brother, was the only family member whose contact information I saved. He'd always stood out from the crowd, calmer and more attentive. He had given me a graduation card with a check inside and a letter that said, "I'm proud of you, kiddo. I always have been." Uncle James told me about the events surrounding my absence at home. Apparently, my parents had no idea I was angry for the first 6 weeks. They assumed I was preoccupied with job hunting. When they saw I wasn't responding at all, they tried to dismiss it as me being theatrical. "She'll come around," my father reportedly stated. "Emily's always been moody," but I didn't agree. I accepted a position at a technology business in Seattle, 2,500 miles from my hometown of Richmond, Virginia. The pay was insane, more than my parents combined. I pushed myself into work, creating a life in which my accomplishments meant something to someone other than myself. Years have passed. I was promoted, and then promoted again. By 2025, at the age of 29, I was a senior engineer with 4 patents and an established reputation in the field. I purchased a nice apartment overlooking Puget Sound. I dated a software architect called Jake for 3 years before our amicable divorce. I developed friends who attended my birthday meals and appreciated my accomplishments without jealousy or disdain. I created a life that was wholly mine. Uncle James kept me vaguely informed about family happenings, but I never inquired. Olivia had evidently quit ballet after high school, which struck me as darkly ironic. She had married a young man called Ryan, worked as a receptionist at a dental clinic, and appeared to be pleased, according to James. My parents still resided in the same home, still following the same routines. They occasionally inquired about me, he added, but with a peculiar detachment, as if I were a distant aunt they scarcely remembered rather than their oldest daughter. Then, in January 2025, Uncle James called with news. "My son Luke is getting married in June," he told me. "Big wedding. The whole family invited. I know you've been keeping your distance, Emily, but I'd really like you there. Luke expressly requested me to contact him. He always looked up to you. I remember Luke as a gangly boy who loved video games. How old is he today?" 26. He is marrying his college girlfriend, Sophie. She's gorgeous. I paused. 6 years is a long time. A part of me had healed during that time. I created enough distance to maybe handle a single day in the same environment as my folks. Will they be there? I inquired, although I already knew the answer. Your parents? Yes, Olivia and Ryan as well, James said, his voice softening. But it's a big wedding, Emily. Over 250 guests. You could probably avoid them pretty easily if you wanted to. I'll think about it. But I had already decided to attend. Over the course of 6 years, something had changed within me. I wasn't furious any longer. Anger suggested that they still held control over me. Instead, I felt inquisitive. I wanted to view them through these new eyes. These eyes belonged to someone who achieved achievement without their permission or support. I sent an RSVP, yes. In the months running up to the wedding, I mentally prepared myself. I purchased a dress that cost more than my parents' monthly mortgage payment, a sleek navy blue piece that made me appear like the accomplished IT professional I would become. I reserved a stay in Richmond's top hotel. I booked a rental car, a Tesla, because why not? June brought sultry Virginia heat. I flew into Richmond International the day before the wedding, checked into my hotel, and spent the evening convincing myself that I was doing this for Luke, not to cause a dramatic confrontation. The wedding was held in a historic home outside the city, complete with manicured gardens and white columns. I arrived on time and blended into the swarm of visitors. The ceremony was set to begin at 4 p.m., followed by a reception. I noticed my parents almost instantly. They'd aged more than I'd anticipated. My father's hair had turned mostly gray, and my mother had gained weight. They stood at the garden entrance with Olivia and her husband, a stocky man with a beard who was constantly checking his phone. Olivia seemed exhausted, older than her 26 years, with her hair pulled back in an untidy bun. They had not seen me yet. I made my way to the opposite side of the yard and took a seat near the rear for the ceremony. Luke and Sophie exchanged vows under a rose-covered arch, and I was really thrilled for them. Uncle James delivered a moving speech on love and partnership that brought some attendees to tears. The reception started. I congratulated Luke and Sophie on the receiving line. Emily, you made it. Luke hugged me. Dad said you might come, but I wasn't sure. God, it's been forever. You're all grown up, I remarked, smiling. Sophie, a small woman with gentle eyes, gripped my hand and said, congratulations to both of you. Luke talks about you all the time. He says, you're like a genius or something. Hardly, but I do all right. I went past the queue and into the reception area, taking a glass of champagne from a passing server. The room was amazing. Chandeliers, round tables with white linens, and a live band set up in the corner. I took my designated seat at a table with some of Luke's college mates, away from where my immediate family was seated. For the first hour, I successfully avoided all interactions. I spoke with my college buddies, heard about their lives, and offered edited highlights from my own. We had supper with filet mignon and roasted veggies. The band began performing. People took to the dance floor. Then my mother came at my elbow. Emily? Her voice broke slightly. Is that really you? I asked, turning slowly with a bland look. Hi, Mom. She looked like she was about to weep. We didn't know you'd be here. Why didn't you tell us you were coming? I RSVP'd to Luke and Sophie. This is their day. My father appeared alongside her. His expression was a mix of surprise and what appeared to be remorse. You look different. Older. It's been 6 years. People age. Olivia stood back and watched with wide eyes. She was always skilled at judging the temperature of a room and knowing when to be silent. 6 years, my mother said. Emily, we've tried to reach you. We've called, sent emails. I know. Then why didn't you respond? Do you have any idea how much you've hurt us? The absurdity of the line almost made me giggle. How much I've hurt you? We're your parents. You can't just disappear from our lives because of some silly grudge. That's what it was. The sheer lack of comprehension, even after 6 years of silence, should have spoken loudly. A silly grudge? I repeated. Is that what you think this is about? My dad shifted uneasily. Look, we know you were upset about graduation, but Olivia's recital was a community theater performance that you could have seen any night that week. They did 5 shows. I kept my speech calm and conversational. Several folks at surrounding tables began to gaze over. My MIT graduation happened once. You've always been so independent, my mother continued, slipping back into her customary defense. Olivia needed us more. She's sensitive and you're so strong. I was your daughter too. I am your daughter, and you have spent my entire life treating me like an afterthought. The comments came out calmly, almost clinically. Every birthday, every achievement, every moment that should have been about me got overshadowed by whatever Olivia needed that day. Olivia's eyes widened. Emily, I never asked them to. I know you didn't. This isn't about you, Olivia. It's about them. When I glanced at my parents, I only felt a faraway grief. You skipped my 7th birthday party for your costume fitting. You missed my high school graduation where I was valedictorian because you had a dance competition in Columbus. You refused to help with my college applications but bought Olivia a car when she turned 18. And then, when I achieved something genuinely incredible, you couldn't even show up for 4 hours. We sent you money, my father remarked hesitantly. I didn't need money. I had scholarships and student jobs. All I needed was my parents. The stillness between us extended. Around the reception, people laughed, danced, and celebrated. We were a little island of dysfunction in a sea of happiness. What do you want from us? My mother eventually said. An apology? Fine, I'm sorry. We're sorry. Can we move past this now? I don't want anything from you. The truth washed over me like a warm blanket. I stopped wanting anything from you 6 years ago. I came here for Luke because he asked me to, because he matters to me. You don't get to corner me at a wedding and demand emotional resolution because it's convenient for you now. That's not fair. My mother whispered. Neither is spending 24 years making your child feel invisible. I walked away, leaving them standing at the bar. My hands didn't shake. My voice had not wavered. I felt almost oddly calm as I returned to my seat, sipped my champagne, and invited one of Luke's friends to dance. Uncle James discovered me during a slow song. I saw that, he whispered softly as we rocked to the music. You handled it better than I expected. I've had 6 years to process everything. They've had 6 years to realize what they lost and apparently learned nothing. For what it's worth, your father asked me about you last Christmas. Wanted to know if you were okay, if you were happy. Uncle James had a sad face. I told him you were thriving. He seemed astonished. Of course, he was surprised. He never thought I'd actually survive without their approval. The song was over. Uncle James grabbed my shoulder. I'm proud of you, Emily. Not just for your career, but also for knowing your worth. The remainder of the reception was a haze. I danced with Luke, congratulated Sophie's parents, and had a slice of wedding cake. My parents kept their distance, but I noticed my mother glancing at me numerous times from across the room. Olivia approached me once when I was freshening up in the ladies' restroom. I'm sorry, she said to my mirror. For all of it. I was a kid for most of it, but I should have noticed. I should have said something. I shifted my gaze toward her. You were the golden child. That wasn't your fault. But you're an adult now. And you've watched them erase me from family photos. Talk about me like I'm some cautionary tale. Have you ever defended me? Ever told them they were wrong? She gazed at the floor. I didn't want to cause drama. That's what I thought. I left her there and returned to the reception area. An hour later, I said my goodbyes to Luke and Sophie, embraced Uncle James, and drove back to my hotel in a Tesla that cost more than my parents made in 8 months. The next morning, I ate Eggs Benedict and drank fresh coffee at the hotel cafe while going through business emails. My flight back to Seattle left at 2. I was checking out of the hotel when my phone called with an unknown local number. Against my better judgment, I responded. But first, let me describe what those 6 years without them were like. The years I spent shaping myself into someone they wouldn't recognize. After graduation, Seattle greeted me with both rain and opportunity. My first place was a studio on Capitol Hill, which was tiny yet personal. I'd outfitted it slowly and methodically, selecting each piece because I liked it, not because it suited a family style or met someone else's approval. An old leather chair from a thrift shop, a workstation facing the window from which I could watch the city wake up while coding. Plants that I miraculously avoided killing. Their green leaves were indication that I had successfully nurtured something. Work absorbed me for the first 3 years, but in the greatest conceivable way. I wasn't fleeing from anything anymore. I was racing toward something. The semiconductor project I'd started at MIT piqued the interest of my department head, Sophia Martinez, a lady in her 50s who had faced her own challenges in technology. Sophia took me under her wing and showed me how to negotiate corporate politics and take credit for my ideas in meetings where guys twice my age tried to talk over me. You're brilliant, Sophia told me one evening when we were both working late, but brilliance isn't enough in this industry. You have to be strategic. You have to make yourself impossible to ignore. By my second year, I was heading projects. By the third, I was submitting patents. The task was demanding in a way that seemed constructive rather than detrimental. Problems that could be solved if you were smart and persistent enough. My own life is filled with folks who showed up. There was Rachel, my neighbor, who became my best friend through shared takeout and bad reality TV. We'd sit on her balcony, drinking wine, and she'd tell me about her wild Italian family, who drove her crazy yet adored her. I'd listen and feel that familiar agony, not envy, but silent regret for something I'd never experienced. Your family really doesn't call at all? Rachel once inquired. They can't. I blocked them. Damn, what did they do? I told her the short version. Missed graduation. A lifetime of being second place. She had become silent, then held me tightly. Their loss, she remarked. Seriously, you're like annoyingly accomplished. If you were my sister, I'd brag about you constantly. Those comments mattered more than she probably realized. There were other pals too. Jordan from my kickboxing class showed me that physical strength can serve as a metaphor for mental resilience. Priya from work welcomed me to her family's Diwali celebrations and made me feel comfortable in their pleasant atmosphere. These folks selected me, and I chose them back, creating a family based on intention rather than duty. The dating was difficult. Jake and I met at a tech event and connected over our shared interest in esoteric programming languages and Korean cuisine. He was polite and stable. Everything should have worked. But 3 years later, during a talk about future plans, he mentioned wanting children someday and how important family traditions were to him. "What about your family traditions?" he had inquired. "Would you want to incorporate those?" I was frozen. I don't have family traditions. Everyone has something. Holiday rituals, birthday celebrations. Jake, I don't talk to my family at all, and I don't plan to change that. He attempted to figure out why. Really tried. But gradually, the absence of in-laws, of that entire dimension of existence, became an issue he couldn't completely resolve. We'd separated peacefully, both admitting that we desired different futures. Following Jake, I dated casually. Then, a lawyer who was overly focused with his job. Alex, a teacher, was overly anxious to mend me as if I were broken rather than purposely recreated. Luke, a business founder, ghosted me after 3 dates, which felt fitting given Seattle's dating culture. I plunged myself further into my job. Patents started stacking up. Innovations in chip design and processing efficiency. Each had my name on it. Emily Carter. Not Emily Carter, James and Claire's daughter. Not Olivia's sister, Emily Carter. Just Emily Carter, an engineer. My paycheck increased. The studio flat was converted to a 1-bedroom. The 1-bedroom became a 2-bedroom with a sea outlook. I purchased original artwork from local galleries rather than Target prints. I flew alone to Tokyo, Berlin, and Barcelona, sending postcards and photographs to Uncle James and Rachel. My passport was full with stamps, proof that I was totally immersed in the life I had created for myself. But there were also rough nights. Nights when I'd witness a father-daughter scene in a movie and felt that old empty aching. I recall being 7 years old and watching through a window while my family celebrated without me because I wasn't important enough to wait for. I were nights where I wondered if there was anything really wrong with me, whether I was unlovable in some manner. Therapy helped. Every Tuesday evening, Dr. Sandra Chen's office served as a refuge. She never pushed me toward reconciliation or implied that forgiveness was required for recovery. Instead, she helped me see that my parents' decisions represented their limits, not my merit. "You were a child who deserved unconditional love," Dr. Chen explained during one session. "The fact that you didn't receive it is a failure of their capacity, not your value." Those words became a mantra during the difficult times. By year 4, something had changed. The grief eased. The rage subsided into something akin to apathy. I discovered days might go by without thinking about my parents at all. My life had grown so full with real friendships, important employment, and personal progress that their absence no longer seemed like a pain, but rather like the natural state of things. I remembered having a talk with Sophia about that time. We were toasting my 4th patent approval with champagne in her office. "You know what I admire about you?" Sophia had asked. "You turned pain into fuel. A lot of people with your background would have imploded. You built an empire instead." "I don't know about empire, Emily. Look at what you've accomplished in 6 years. You're 29 years old with 4 patents, leading a team of engineers twice your age, making more money than most people see in a lifetime. That's an empire." She was raising her flute. "And you did it without anyone's help. That's even more impressive." The approval from someone I admired greatly meant everything. Sophia noticed me in ways my parents never did. So, by the time Luke's wedding invitation arrived, I was no longer the hurt 24-year-old who had walked across the graduation stage alone. I was a completely different person. Stronger and more complete. That's who turned up in Richmond that June day. Not the daughter anxious for acceptance, but the lady who realized she didn't need it. Despite my better judgment, I answered the phone. "Emily," my father said, "please don't hang up." "How did you get this number?" "James gave it to me." "Just listen for 1 minute." I remained silent, waiting. "I saw you yesterday at the wedding and I barely recognized you. You look so polished, so successful." "James told me about your patents, your position at the company. He showed me an article about you in some tech magazine." His tone got more authoritative. I realized I didn't know any of that. "I don't know anything about your life." "No, you don't. Your mother and I talked last night after the wedding. Really talked. And we started looking back at everything. All the times we chose Olivia over you. We always thought we were doing the right thing, giving more attention to the child who needed it more. But we forgot that you needed us too. I'm not having this conversation. You turned out so well, better than we ever imagined, and we had nothing to do with it." The statement hung in the air between us. I could hear him breathing, waiting for me to exonerate him, say everything was okay, and offer forgiveness. You're right, I said finally. You had nothing to do with it. I did this alone and I'll continue doing it alone. Emily, I don't hate you. I don't even feel angry anymore, but I also don't feel anything else. You're strangers who share my DNA and that's all you'll ever be. I stopped to ensure my statements were clear. Seeing you yesterday confirmed what I've known for 6 years. I made the right choice when I walked away. I'm happier without you in my life. There has to be something we can do, some way to fix this. You can't fix 24 years of neglect with one conversation. You can't erase the fact that my MIT graduation, the proudest moment of my life, is forever tainted by your absence. You made your choices. Now I've made mine. Will we ever hear from you again? I seriously considered it. Maybe at funerals. Maybe at other weddings if Uncle James asks me. But no, you won't hear from me. I won't send Christmas cards or birthday wishes. I won't call on Mother's Day or Father's Day. You wanted to prioritize Olivia's needs over mine for 2 decades. Well, now you get to live with the consequences of that choice. Your mother is devastated. She'll survive. She's strong and independent, remember? That's what she always said about me, but I didn't need her. It turns out she was right. I hung up and blocked the number. On the journey back to Seattle, I remembered the young kid I used to be. The one who worked so hard to get her parents' attention, believing that if she simply did enough, excelled enough, and accomplished enough, they'd finally notice her. I was heartbroken for the young child. She deserved better. But the lady I had become was doing wonderfully. Monday morning, I stepped into my office, which had a view of the Space Needle and a sound system, got my first coffee of the day, and launched into a new project that would eventually become my most successful patent yet. Jennifer, my co-worker, dropped by my desk about midday. "How was the wedding?" she inquired. "Interesting. Saw some family I hadn't seen in years." "Good interesting or bad interesting? Necessary interesting?" She chuckled and asked me to a happy hour on Friday. I agreed and am really looking forward to it. To the simple friendships I formed, to the life I established without my parents' aid or permission. That evening, Uncle James texted me. "Your father called me. Said you spoke this morning." He sounded lost. "Your mother is apparently going through old photo albums and crying. Just thought you should know." I responded, "Thanks for letting me know, but it doesn't change anything." I didn't think it would. "Still proud of you, kiddo." Over the following weeks, James informed me that my parents had reached what he referred to as the mourning phase. They appeared to have pulled Olivia from her pedestal, resulting in their own family conflict. Olivia felt assaulted. Ryan felt stuck in the midst. My parents were often angry with me because I was unreasonable. Anger at themselves for their decisions and a deep despair, which James described as painful to behold, but I felt none of it. I was sheltered by 2,500 miles and 6 years of hard-earned emotional distance. In August, my firm sent me to a technology conference in Boston. I had a free day, so I traveled to Cambridge and walked around the MIT campus. Students ran past with bags, their faces beaming with ambition and tiredness. I stood alone on the grass where I had earned my diploma and photographed the view. That night, I put it on Instagram, the first photo I'd shared in months. Caption: 6 years ago, I graduated from here and began crafting the life I truly want. Best decision I've ever made. The post received over 300 likes from coworkers, friends, and past classmates. People I had attended MIT with expressed their congrats and pride. A old labmate wrote, "You've always been an inspiration. Remember that time you debugged that impossible code at 3 a.m.? You were unstoppable then and you're unstoppable now." I grinned at my phone screen, truly satisfied. Uncle James called a couple of days later. "Your mother saw your Instagram post. She's not following you, but Olivia showed it to her. She cried for an hour." "James, I appreciate you keeping me updated, but you don't have to tell me these things anymore. Their feelings aren't my responsibility." "Fair enough. Just wanted to make sure you knew they're finally understanding what they lost. They didn't lose me. They never really had me." The reality of that remark rang long after the call was over. My parents were physically there throughout my upbringing, but emotionally absent for everything that counted. They gave food, housing, and basic requirements while denying a child the most important thing, a sense of being noticed, cherished, and prioritized. I'd spent 6 years learning to recognize, cherish, and prioritize myself. Their abrupt recognition that they had failed me did not reverse the healing work I had already done. Luke and Sophie announced their pregnancy in October. Uncle James had a family celebration and called to invite me. I graciously declined. "My parents will be there," I explained. "They will, but Emily, Luke really wants you in his life. Amanda does too. Are you going to let your parents dictate which family events you can attend?" He had a point. Let me think about it. I pondered about it for 3 days before calling Luke personally. Uncle James replied, "You want me at the celebration?" "I do. You're basically my cool older cousin who inspired me to aim high. I want my kid to know you." His honesty punched me hard in the chest. "Okay, I will come, but I need you to realize something. I am not there to reconcile with my parents. I am there for you and Amanda. If they approach me, I will be polite, but that is all. My parents remained on the other side of the yard, and I arrived late on purpose, after the majority of the guests had already arrived. I found Luke and Amanda in the backyard, congratulated them, and spent the rest of the afternoon talking with James' wife, Margaret, who had always been kind to me. Olivia approached me once, asking how I was doing, and I gave her the polite, detached replies you'd give an acquaintance. She didn't press for more. As the sun began to set and I was about to leave, my mother stopped me near the front door. "I'm glad you came," she said. "It means a lot to Luke. Luke is the reason I'm here. Can we talk? Really talk? Not at a wedding or celebration, but in a quiet setting." "To what end, Mom? To try? To see whether there is a route forward?" I scrutinized her expression, looking for manipulation or selfishness, but instead found true desperation, which wasn't enough. "I don't believe there is a path ahead. You seek absolution. You want me to tell you that everything is okay, that we can start again, that the past doesn't matter, but I can't." I adjusted my purse on my shoulder. "What you can do is learn from this. Luke's kid will arrive in 6 months. You now have another opportunity to be better grandparents than you were parents. Take it." Her eyes welled up with tears. "So that's it. We'll never have a relationship again. We never really had one to begin with." I drove back to my hotel, leaving her waiting in the doorway. The next morning, before my flight, I had breakfast with Uncle James for the last time. "You're taking this with great grace," he observed over pancakes. "I'm not feeling graceful. I am tired." "I'm tired of what?" "I'm tired of being asked to mend what they've broken. I'm tired of being pushed to feel bad for preserving my serenity. Tired of people assuming that my genetics forces me to forgive the unforgivable." James nodded slowly. "You do not owe anyone forgiveness, Emily. Not even your folks. Especially not your parents." Those words nestled into my bones like a blessing. Back in Seattle, life went on. I dated a marine biologist called David for a few months before learning we had different interests. I got a cat named Tesla, who slept on my computer during video conversations. I got promoted again, this time to director of engineering with a salary that would have made 24-year-old me weep with disbelief. Years passed. Luke's baby, a girl named Sophie, arrived healthy and perfect. James sent photos. I'd given him permission for that much. Olivia divorced, moved back in with my parents for a while, and eventually found her footing with a job at a real estate office. In 2025, when I was 29 years old, I gave a keynote speech at a Women in Technology conference in San Francisco. James mentioned my father's diabetes diagnosis and my mother's knee surgery, and I felt a flicker of concern, but nothing more. They were elderly strangers with medical problems, just like someone you read about in the news. I spoke to over 1,200 people about resilience, building success without a support system, and the importance of knowing your worth, even when the people who should value you most don't. The standing ovation lasted nearly 6 minutes, and afterward, a young woman approached me with tears streaming down her face. She couldn't have been more than 25 years old. "Thank you," she whispered. "My family doesn't support my tech career. They believe I should become a teacher or a nurse, anything more conventional. Hearing you talk made me feel less alone." I hugged her, this stranger who understood. "You are not alone. And their unwillingness to recognize your potential tells everything about them, but nothing about you." She nodded, wiping her eyes. "How did you do it? How did you let go of the desire for their approval?" I understood that waiting for their approval meant putting my life on hold, so I stopped waiting and started living. I offered her advice that I'd been following for 6 years, and it had served me well. That night in my hotel room, I scrolled through my Instagram and saw that Olivia had recently posted a photo of our parents with Sophie with the caption, "3 generations of love." I wasn't in the photo, and obviously, I wasn't part of their narrative anymore. The old me, the 7-year-old who missed her birthday party, would have been crushed by the exclusion, but the current me simply scrolled past without reacting. I posted my own photo from the conference. Caption: "Today, I spoke to 12,000 bright women on perseverance and self-worth. I'm honored to share my story and theirs." The photo received over 500 likes, and colleagues, acquaintances, and old classmates expressed their delight and support. One remark stood out to me. It was from Rachel, my old MIT roommate. "Remember when we graduated and you were so alone? Look at yourself today. Surrounded by people who genuinely admire you. Emily, you've established an empire." I am in amazement. I liked her remark and responded with a heart emoji. I closed Instagram, ordered room service, and ate pricey hotel spaghetti while watching a documentary about deep-sea animals. Around 10 o'clock, my phone rang, and it was Uncle James, who was a little late for a call. I asked, "Is everything okay? Your father suffered a heart attack this afternoon. He is presently in stable condition at Richmond Hospital. Your mother asked me to inform you." I sat up straighter. "Will he be okay?" "The doctors think so. But Emily, he's asking for you." The request lingered in the air like a challenge. 6 years had passed since I broke touch. 6 years of making a life without them. 6 years of recovering from wounds caused by thoughtless negligence, and now, at the first indication of death, they wanted me back. I can't, I said gently. I'm not asking you, just relaying the message. What are they expecting? I'll hurry to his bedside and we'll have a dying reconciliation? Maybe that's exactly what they expect. Well, they're going to be disappointed again. I lay back against the motel headboard. He'll heal, right? That's what the doctors say. Then he'll be okay without me around. He has been okay without me for 6 years. James groaned. I'll let them know. After we called up, I sat in the dark hotel room and carefully analyzed my feelings. Guilt? No. Sadness? Maybe a bit, but more for what could have been than what was. Relief? Mostly that. I didn't travel to Richmond. I delivered flowers to the hospital with a letter that read, "Simply wishing you a speedy recovery." Professional, distant, appropriate for someone I barely knew. My mother phoned James, outraged that I'd sent flowers instead of seeing up in person. Apparently my father sobbed when he saw them, not out of appreciation, but out of despair. In a Facebook post that she later deleted, Olivia referred to me as a heartless monster, but their reactions confirmed that I'd made the right decision. It wasn't about punishing them. It was about protecting myself. It was about refusing to spend the rest of my life auditioning for their love, hoping that this time, this achievement, this moment would finally be enough to earn their attention. I'd stopped auditioning 6 years ago. I'd just begun living, and the life I created was extraordinary precisely because they weren't in it, constantly reminding me that I wasn't Olivia, wasn't worth their time, wasn't quite good enough to matter. My father recovered, and life went on. I stayed in Seattle, thrived in my career, dated a photographer named Daniel who made me laugh, and respected my boundaries. On the 6-year anniversary of my MIT graduation, I posted a lengthy caption on Instagram about everything that day had meant to me. Standing alone in my cap and gown, the small ceremony that my parents couldn't be bothered to attend, and how that day had become the beginning of my actual life rather than the end of my college career. The post went viral. Over 12,000 likes, hundreds of shares, and thousands of comments from people sharing their own stories of family rejection and survival. News outlets picked it up. I did several interviews about family estrangement and the pressure to forgive people who have hurt you simply because they are related to you. My parents witnessed it all. According to James, they were appalled by the public aspect of my talk, ashamed that others knew what they'd done. Olivia referred to it as exposing dirty laundry. My father supposedly told James that I was making them look like monsters. James questioned me during one of our now monthly calls. No, they're just individuals who continuously made bad decisions and refused to accept the consequences. Monsters would be easy. I might dislike monsters, but I can't hate them. I can only defend myself against them. My emotional clarity had taken years to attain, but it was complete. Today, in 2025, 6 years after that lonely graduation day, I live in a lovely apartment with Daniel and our cat. My parents are still alive, but they are not a part of my story. I mentor young women in engineering, especially those from unsupportive families, because I am well versed in their struggles. I also have patents and a reputation for advocating for undervalued talent in the tech industry. People sometimes ask me if I regret not including my parents in my life. They want me to admit that I've lost something valuable, that family is irreplaceable, and that blood is the most important thing. But I haven't lost anything. Rather, I've gained everything. They lost a daughter who would have moved mountains to earn their pride, patents with their last name attached, grandchildren they might have had if I ever felt secure enough to start a family, and a relationship with someone who turned out to be quite extraordinary despite their complete lack of support. I remember everything about my MIT graduation, from the weight of the diploma in my hand to the empty seats in the family section, and the moment I decided I was done begging for crumbs of their attention. They didn't realize it until much later, and by then, it was far too late.